This question is for Matt and Tom. Usually the three biggest line items in a production are studio costs, mastering, and contract negotiation legal fees. So after these costs, the balance left to pay talent, musicians, is disturbingly low. Yet it's the talent that is a key element of a great record. So how do you as a producer handle this with low budget jazz recording?
Matt and I definitely have different viewpoints on this because I generally, most of the productions I've done haven't been for large corporate entities. I've been mostly for independent labels, and we predicate, that hasn't changed a lot in the last, unlike a lot of things that have changed so dramatically in our business for the last 20 years over the situation that was in the 60s and 70s and 80s. Recently, the budgets for albums have gone down, but the basic parameters have stayed the same. But we found now that we just try to find, first of all, recording studios where we can get high quality at the lowest price that we can find. I mean, that's a real challenge in our business, in order that we can do the work that we have to do. And in terms of the budgets, we have to work with the musicians to try to be as realistic as possible within the current parameters that we have to work with. So it's an increasingly demanding challenge, but one that we're still able to deal with. But it really is one of the greatest demands that we have in terms of we try to keep the recording costs now, I think, which I think we all agree we have to keep at the lowest possible level in order for us to be able to allot a maximum amount to actually paying the talent that we have and being able to record and master the product as effectively as we can. So it's just, the whole business is going through a complete, turning inside out. But basically, in the recordings that I've worked on the last 30 and 40 years, the talent has been the biggest expense that I always have. Everything else is kind of I figure out after I figure out the talent costs. So it's a little different than what Matt is, and he'll give you another insight from another perspective. But the talent costs have still, there's been less and less funds available even to pay the musicians, and you have to work creatively with the musicians in order to create the product that you want to create. I mean, it's basically still a labor of love all the way up and down the line, and you have to appeal to the musicians as much as possible to be a part of the overall budgetary situation that you have.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, not to disagree with my esteemed colleague about my experiences, I mean, I think that over the past 10 years or so, most of the projects I've done have been independently funded by artists or through crowdfunding campaigns. So it's always important to make every dollar go as far as possible. I can be looking for $5,000, I may look for $400,000. But every time it's important to make sure every dollar ends up in the music, in the service of documenting the artist's vision and connecting on a deep emotional level with the listener. In terms of these three categories, I mean, the legal piece is never a part of what we deal with budgets. I know that the artists in some cases have to deal with negotiating with attorneys. The recording and mastering piece is something that over time has changed quite a bit, certainly because of much of recording can happen without having to rent out an expensive facility. I do all my own digital editing, and most of the mixing we do is in the box, not looking at a recording studio, so we can save a lot of money there. There are more affordable ways to master than there used to be. In terms of paying musicians, for the most part, I always insist on any project I will pay at least union scale to every musician. There's low budget scale now through the union, if you get approved for that. If any budget is under $99,000, which I don't know how many of us have ever played a record in the past few years, more than $99,000 last decade. So, so those union costs, which are $246 for a 3-hour session, that's the bottom line of what a musician has to get paid. So, you know, it comes down to negotiating with artists. It comes down to the artist being willing, the musicians being willing to understand that they're being a part of a piece of product that isn't necessarily going to generate a lot of revenue. So, you know, that musician line, you know, very often is certainly the most important line in the budget, but it's not really negotiable to get below a certain amount. Then those decisions come into place where you say, well, for the bass player in this project, the right guy to call is going to be this guy who's going to cost us $1,500 a day. Can we afford that in the budget, and how do we find a way to make that happen through, you know, working personal relationships, whether it's asking favors, whether it's borrowing money from one column and putting it in another. And at the end of the day, just making sure that each of those decisions all add up to making the best possible recording, and never losing sight of the fact that even if we only have a small fraction of money we used to be able to spend, these records last forever the same way that the expensive records last forever. So you can't compromise the artistic piece. If you go into a project and you have a certain, it's like, this is how much we have to spend. If you can do it, you make the record, and if the money's not there, very often you have to say to the artist, you gotta come up with another couple of grand for us to do this right, or I think you should not do it. I think that's happening more often than not now. The combination of not having the funds to put into the record, the limitations of the market in terms of what revenue can be generated from song and recording, and just an understanding that, you know, you need to do it right or not do it at all. There's so many recordings out there that don't get heard to begin with. So I think it's important that we make great records and make sure that they're going to be heard, but be responsible for costs.
All right, thank you. All right. So the next question is for Terry Lynn and Brian. There's a quote from Abraham Lincoln: give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I'll spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. Could you give us your pre-recording to-do list and expand upon the importance of prep work and how it varies from project to project, artist to artist?
Sure.
Sorry.
Okay. I normally work I demo all my songs first, and I try to make the demos really, really clear and like the intention. So anybody that's heard my demos, and then like a couple of people, I really put a lot of work into the demos, just so that the musicians, when we get to the studio, the musicians really have an idea of at least what I'm hearing. And even the charts, you know, all the voicings and everything, you know, and then they can then put their own stamp on it. But I think I found that to be very helpful, opposed to just sending somebody, you know, the chart, or even just sending somebody a finale demo that they can't really hear a vibe. You know? Like I'll take solos, and it's fun for me. Yeah. So that's been very, very helpful and then actually, it depends on the kind of record, but because I do that so extensively, I'm actually able to play with the pre-production demo. So if there's like something integral in the song that person's not in the studio and that's an overdub for later, we can actually play with the demo. Like, I mean, it was something really crazy actually. And I don't think he didn't even realize it, because I did a record, Money Jungle, and Clark Terry, he was sick, and I went down to his house in Arkansas, and I just had the demo of the song. I hadn't recorded the song yet. So he played a few notes, but then he ended up singing, scatting singing. And he did it to the demo, but I'm not sure that he even realized that it was the demo. So then when we went in the studio and we cut the song, it was actually to him. You know, so Gerald, Clay, they could respond to him. Yeah. So I mean, that's one thing that I do. And
Does that help you with, you know, sort of a low budget, you know, being able to really, when you're in the studio, nail it in the limited time you might have?
Yeah, absolutely. And then I create playlists and I sing. If it's a vocal, a lot of this work I've been doing is vocal stuff. So I sing the demos myself as well. and I try to actually sing them in the style of the person that that if they're not there yet, or they cut the song before them, because I don't think any of my songs, the singer's been there. I don't think the Diane Reeves record yet, but from my records, I don't think the singer's been there to cut live with the band ever. So they actually cut to my vocal, and then, or vice versa if I have, I like for the singer to actually hear the track, opposed to the singer actually singing on the demo, like, Clark scenario. But, so yeah, that helps a lot, because then I create playlists, and I can then weave between, playlists, so I can tell if we play a track 3 times, that generally, is enough, depending on how difficult it is, because I can tell, I can hear if I've got everything I need in those 3 takes, and then I can go between the playlists. So that helps, helps me a lot.
What was the difference between doing money? Did you do those demos for Money Jumble as well? And you played to the demos? Because that's a sort of different kind of record, right?
We did anything that, let's see, we did play the 1 or 2, well, we did to Florette Africana, where Clark was. We played to the track because Clark was already on it. Anything that's swinging, no, I wouldn't do that. But anything that's straight 8, I actually could do it, but some things aren't worth it,
Sure.
So I only do it when it's a lot of intricate things going on. So with that, but I still demoed everything and took a few solos, and I always put a disclaimer out if I'm sending it to Christian McBride or Joe Clayton. Don't judge me, but here.
Ron, how do you chop down a tree?
Yeah, I mean, besides scheduling and negotiating fees, I think a lot of my time is spent going through songs and song choices and narrowing down things, so that I'm not trying to go into a record trying to do 20 songs instead of 10 or 12. And then after that, it's a matter of arrangements. I have a project coming up in February where we spent over a year just going through songs, choices, going back and forth and stuff like that. And finding different songwriters and trying to sort of put together a body of songs that sort of tell a story and make sense. And then it's about rehearsals and doing demos and stuff like that. I think the more you can prepare in this day and age, and before you actually go in and start clocking studio time, have basically almost everything kind of laid out, the better. And even little things like, how are you going to end a song? I mean, so many times I've been in sessions where they start playing and they don't really know how they're going to end the song, whether it's going to be a fade, whether they've got an arrangement, how long it's going to go on. And I think if they know how you're going to start and how you're going to end the song, just kind of going on that and rehearsing those before you go in, you save a lot of time.
Yeah.